I'm Roy Potter, a former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. Hi ladies and gentlemen, this is Roy Potter, and I wanted you to see the NSA facility outside of Bluffdale, Utah, just west of Camp Williams there. Those buildings are the NSA facility, and you might be wondering why I have that up there, because we're going to talk a little bit about how this impacted Las Vegas and all of the other terrorist attacks, amongst other things, that have happened in the last little while here. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out now so I can get in the frame. Okay, and here we are. By the way, you'll notice it's very hazy here, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that there's been a heck of a lot of spraying for chemtrails out west and over Utah itself and Wyoming, and a lot of people think that this is pollution from cars and all that. It's not. This is blown in from out west and settled here as the chemtrails settle into the valleys. And I know that sounds absurd, but I did a story on this for a local news agency not too long ago, a few years back, explaining to them what the situation is here. And sorry, I got to adjust the camera here just a little bit better. All right, got glasses on because it is still a little bright out, and I'll kind of stand off probably this side so you can still see what's going on out there. So the fact of the matter is, man, this stuff's bad, and the pollution, when it does come in, comes from a magnesium facility out on the west side of Salt Lake. I watched that very closely one day, and they tried to say it was from the vehicles and all that, and it wasn't. It came in from the west side of the lake from that magnesium plant. And they want to blame everybody for this when in fact the cars aren't causing it. But at any rate, so all of this chemtrail stuff has happened, and we're breathing this stuff, and that's a shout out for Pam Jones and all of her efforts. Pam Jones for Liberty.com and her Twitter account as well, at Pam Jones for Liberty, because this is a serious problem, and it is a warfare on us, and I'm not going to take the time to go into that. I'll just leave that for you all to look that up for yourselves if you're not already familiar with it, and I think most of you probably are. No, it's not a conspiracy theory. You can look these things up on government websites and other places and determine that. Okay, enough of that. So why am I talking about the NSA facility here? Well, like I said at the beginning, it's interesting. We've got this huge billions of dollars in structure over here, and also other places around the country, but this is the main one here. And supposedly it's there to keep us safe, to monitor all these terrorist communications and all that. And yet what happens? They're so focused, frankly, on the American people and their liberties, trying to subdue them from those, to take those away, that they gather all this data, so much of it that they can't catch, or they ignore something that will give them more power. Either they don't catch these things as they're happening, as they're being planned, which obviously they would have been, obviously, or they're ignoring them. Now, I'm not saying the lower level analysts or those people, but I'm saying the higher ups. Now, Admiral Rogers is trying to do a good job, I guess, because Donald Trump has kept him, but there's still some questions about what's really going on there. Maybe he's not getting all the information either. I don't really know. I don't trust any flag officer these days, especially if they survive the Obama purges, as you know. But at any rate, so what are they using this for? Well, parallel construction primarily, and a good case of that can be seen in the Bundy trials that are going on in Nevada now. When all of those people were out there because the BLM said that they were going to do a Waco-style attack on the Bundy ranch, and they did some things to prove it. Made some false arrests, those types of things. You can go back and look at that if you want. Brandon Thornton and I did a great deal of work on that. We were actually there back in 2014. But what the government's done now is anybody who reports on that or has any affiliation with the demonstration, even if they weren't armed or if they were merely there, they want to say that that's a conspiracy against the government. Well, if that's the case, then anybody who holds the government accountable could be called a conspiracist, a conspiracy, involved in a conspiracy. So they use this information from the NSA, and of course the FBI is linked into that, and the CIA. Now, there's been a long war supposedly between the CIA and the NSA, and there's some truth to that. There was a war between the FBI and the CIA, but the FBI finally got absorbed into the CIA, so it's basically the same thing at this point. The NSA, I don't know. You see what Edward Snowden did and what that caused, and then William Binney, of course, when he talked about how corrupt these intelligence organizations are, and he was one of the main mathematicians for the NSA, of course, that set up a lot of the things that they were doing. But the point is that they get this information, and rather than investigating crimes, they investigate people. And then they use parallel construction to make what's going on appear to be a crime, or to match something like a conspiracy, for instance, which is usually very hard to prove. But at this point in time, the government is especially the rogue elements of the government, the ones who really want your liberties, they're out there to quell any notion by the American people that they should hold their government accountable, or the rogue elements of it. And of course, this has ties into other things. For instance, the New World Order and the deep state and that kind of thing. So I wanted to show you this and just bring that up. It's a travesty of justice how this is being used. As you saw, the politics of the thing. They went in and used resources to I'm going to just say, for lack of a better term, monitor, wiretap, surveil, however you want to put it, the Trump campaign, and yet they ignore everything that's going on with Hillary Clinton, right? Well, if anybody's been watching 4chan lately, and of course I know a lot of you have, there's been a thing there by a writer called Q. And actually I came on this kind of late on the scene, actually. I'll just give Tracy Beans a shout out here. It was actually her that got me going to watch that, as maybe a lot of you have. I have other sources and things that I pay attention to, but this thing on 4chan with the Q clearance Patriot was important. Is it real? Well, I think we have a lot of corresponding and corroborating information there with what's happening on the outside. So I think that there's a lot of truth to that. But as I said, these facilities like the NSA supposedly are supposed to keep us safe, and they have not. There's corruption in the government, okay? A lot of it. Pedophilia, stealing land like they did through the BLM, like Clinton and Reid did through the BLM, and a lot of others are involved in that. Uranium One in Oregon and also in Nevada. Chinese corporations, actually they're all government owned in China, like that, but to give the Chinese and to sell, Hillary and Reid put themselves as the middlemen in these, as they were working for the government, should be in the interest of the people of the United States, put themselves in the middle of these corrupt business dealings so that they got a bleed off of that. In Hillary's case, millions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars. And for the Clinton Foundation, of course, she didn't take it directly. It's her way of laundering the money. And if you notice, the Clinton Foundation is pretty much shut down now. So as soon as she left office, and her ability to use her power to give people the pay and play opportunities, as soon as that was gone, the Clinton Foundation started to go away too. Isn't that interesting? They're not really interested in helping anybody. And the same with Harry Reid and all of these people. It was all to put themselves in position to make themselves rich at the expense of the liberties, freedoms, lives of the American people. And so one of the end results of that is the Las Vegas shooting, which now I think I'll move into just for a little bit. Because everybody's wondering where this is. Well, actually, there are a lot of people out there doing a great job. Jake Morphonios has done a great job. Shepard Ambulis has done a great job with IntelliHub. Able Danger, just a lot of people. And so, we want to make sure that they know I'm taking a picture of things here, so they're going to start checking me out because they don't like anybody doing anything about this. So at any rate, that's an interesting chopper there, but I'm not going to give them any attention. So what's going on in Vegas? Well, yes, it was a Saudi Arabian thing. Early on I said that it was obvious that they were after a high-value target, at least one, maybe several. And that's turned out to be the case now. The mainstream media is not touching this at all, or very little. But the fact of the matter is that's what it was about initially, to take out a high-value target, possibly Prince Salman, but I think there was probably something more to it than that. I still wonder if there weren't some American people involved in that too, and we're still wondering what happened to Paddock, of course, because that's not him on the floor of the hotel room. So what happened here? It was an assassination attempt with elements of the rogue deep state of the United States, in collaboration, I should say, to do a multifaceted paramilitary operation for lots of reasons. And a lot of Americans were killed and injured because of this treasonous activity by members of this intelligence community. And you know that on my channel here, what is my motto? The intel community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. So I don't want to get into a lot of detail here because I wanted to do this real quick. There's a lot of information out there. Nobody knows the whole story because we don't have access to the classified information. The FBI shut down the Las Vegas shooting information to the public, and they can use lots of reasons for that. But the fact of the matter is, rogue elements of the FBI and the CIA, and even probably the NSA, the FAA, all of this is kind of gelling. They're coalescing together in the Las Vegas incident. And there are guilty people in all of this, just like there were 9/11. Look how they shut down Sybil Edmonds of the FBI and Colonel Anthony Schaefer of the Department of the Army when he was in the Able Danger operation to look for Osama bin Laden. Those are the people they go after and harass and persecute. Another one, because they want to shut it down because of these bad elements in the government. Another one is a guy by the name of Zach on InfoWars who revealed some information about the Saudi connection and the Yemeni connection there and what's happening with the paramilitary groups that now have lost their funding from other places and are selling themselves out to these organizations like this war going on in the Saudi government and in the United States government both, which is why I tie back into Boston bombing. Oh, and somebody asked a question, or I saw a comment, which I don't normally look at comments on my YouTube channel, but one caught my eye, and they were making fun of my information on the Boston bombing, saying, well, it didn't really happen. Well, that wasn't the point of my videos, because I know, for instance, that one of the guys who supposedly had his legs blown off obviously was a prior amputee before this all happened, and I'm not going to go into the identities of those. All of you can look that up and see what it is. It's obvious. The way they treated those people medically and all that is ridiculous. So there was some false flag side of it, meaning that there was a hoax part of the event as well as the actual event. They combined the two, just like they did in Vegas, okay? Very similar. My point in the Boston bombing thing was that it showed that there was a war in the government. At that time, still going on between elements of the CIA and the FBI, okay? And some other things too. All right, well, I'm jumping around a little bit, but there's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, they're monitoring me already because I'm sitting here with a tripod, and they don't like that. I've kept my phone off to try to give me a little lead time so I could get this report up and running. I don't know actually when I'll get it posted. Today is the 11th of November. We're expecting some other things to happen, both in the United States and around the world today. Montegraph, who is very good, by the way, if any of you watch him, he's very good. He's got to have some intelligence background somewhere. He went through some of the Q posts and thinks that they're talking about attacks that are going to happen in Britain and in the United States today. I don't think that's Q's focus myself. Not that Q and the good parts of the intelligence communities wouldn't know about those things, because they would, but I don't think that that's the crux of Q's information. The crux is that things are going to change for the better in the United States, that bad people in our government are going down. I think that's the crux of it. Is that true? I still haven't made up my mind completely about that, but I do see a lot of corroboration going on between events and what this Q clearance Patriot has talked about. All right, enough for now. I'm going to change position because I don't want to give them too much of a chance, and there are some black vehicles starting to show up around here. They're keeping the distance, but I'm just going to go ahead and sign out for now. I'll be right back up in just a second or two to complete this, okay? All right. All right, well, I figured I might as well show you around a little bit while we're talking. This is Salt Lake Valley. Probably not the best vantage point for it, but it'll give you kind of an idea. Fairly large. You'll notice I was just in basically what's called Utah Valley, and you'll notice that the air here isn't quite as bad, and yet this is where most of the industrial areas would be. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, the magnesium facility rather on the west side of Salt Lake is what causes most of the pollution here. That dark stuff that you see out there, kind of darkish red, I don't know if you can tell that. But what settled in Utah Valley was in fact something a little bit different. And the wind is blowing today. I think you can see that right here. So there's no reason for, and we've had some windy weather for a few days now. So the fact of the matter is the wind should be blowing this out, but they're heavy particles that they're spraying, as Pam Jones will probably tell you about, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But okay, I'll get off of that. Let's go back to this and take a look at the mountains here. Up that canyon right over there is, some of you may know, the different ski areas that you can go to in Utah, and right up there would be Cottonwood Canyon, Little Cottonwood Canyon, Big Cottonwood Canyon, and of course Snowbird is up there, and we have some others if you've ever heard of those. Park City is on the other side of that mountain right there that you're looking at, this big one right here. It's just on the other side of that. Okay, just so you know. All right, getting back to some other things here, I wanted to point out that Salt Lake City, Utah, in fact, is one of the mega centers for the military industrial intelligence security complex. You have Hill Air Force Base north, you have Tooele Army Depot, and the Chemical Storage Depot out west and just southwest of here. Dugway Proving Grounds is out that way. Of course, you have NSA Camp Williams, which I just shown you down south where we were, just at the point of the mountain by Bluffdale. Plus lots of companies like Alliant Tech, which is all over the place out here. Their main facility is out in that direction. Matter of fact, you can just partially see it there in the distance. And they've also got a facility up north. Anyway, a lot of things here. And one of the things that happened to me back a few years ago, some of you may recall, is I was getting watched pretty closely by obviously new members of the intelligence community, and they were causing me some problems. They were gang stalking me, following me around. That's basically after I did the Boston bombing analysis, and then again after Bundy Ranch. And I'll talk a little bit more about Bundy Ranch because this does tie into the Las Vegas deal pretty heavily, as you'll see. Okay, I just wanted to bring that up, and we'll continue on. Okay, and we're on our way a little bit further here. And you'll wonder why I'm moving around so much. Just for the fun of it, really. Something a little different. We're going to go to not a famous place right now, but kind of a quaint, charming little place where I'll kind of finish up. And I think you'll enjoy that too. I'll give you a little look around. At any rate, getting back to this Las Vegas thing, while it's not tied in directly to the Bundy Ranch as far as, you know, the shooting itself, it has to do with all that's being uncovered with Uranium-1 and, of course, the situation with Hillary Clinton and Harry Reid and others, as I've pointed out. The FBI considers the American people its enemy, at least the people that are in control. I'm not talking about Christopher Wray, although there's a lot of questions as to why, you know, he got appointed to that position. Not that I distrust what Trump's doing. Trump's got a really difficult job. But the FBI and the CIA, as I've said, are one and the same. And then with the attempts to cover up the Uranium-1 deal and all of the other crony stuff, pay for play, all of that Clinton and Harry Reid have been involved in, and others, again, as I've said, it's no wonder that the FBI tried to go after, and the Department of Justice and their Obama holdover cronies have given the ranchers such a difficult time out west trying to steal their lands. So these are our supposedly taxpayer-funded agencies to protect us that are being used to war against us. And hopefully Trump is in the middle right now of bringing down some people that have been doing this. And that's what we're hoping with, you know, the events that are going to occur hopefully here quite soon. So, okay, well, I keep harping on that because it is so important. I'm going to make another stop here to this other place, give you a little tour, and then we'll close it down from there, okay? Just another shot of the mountains from a slightly different angle, so you can kind of see the majesty of these mountains. This is the Wasatch Front. All right, well, this is where I wanted to bring you. So let's go in and take a look. This is a Gardner Village. It's a very quaint little village from back in the 1800s that they've brought some historic buildings and things here. And it's off of 7800 South and about 9th West or so in Salt Lake City. Well, the entire village is pretty much focused. The theme is around this old mill, and it was used to, I guess, grind flour and all those types of things back in the 1800s. And there's a restaurant in there called Archibald's. Very good, not too expensive, pretty nice. And they have this meeting area here for people. There's actually a wheel right over there that used to power the mill. Let me show you that. All right, there's the mill there, the water wheel for powering the mill. And let's go show you around for a minute. All right, all these old cabins and homes were brought here to kind of add to the ambiance of the place. And there's a lot to do here. Old-fashioned food, candy, just about anything you'd want in a little quaint place like this. It's very nice. It's very popular here in Salt Lake, probably around the world because of what they have. Each of these shops has a specialty, and that's why people come here, because it's a pleasant place. They can bring their families, take pictures, and buy things that take them back in time a little bit. This is an old cabin here from the 1800s that was brought here, 2-story. I just want to give you an idea of some of the things that are available. This is for, looks like knitting and crochet type of products. Here's a gelato store. I'm sure they have lots of other things. And you can see all these cute little shops, and there's a lot of them. There are a lot of them, I should say. I'm not here to be a commercial for these guys or an advertisement. No, I'm not getting paid to do this. It's just a beautiful, fun place to be. At Christmas time, definitely you want to be here. Okay. Well, like I said, I just wanted to show you around real quick. Let's sit down and talk about a few more things, and then I'll shut this down. All right. So here we are back again. We're kind of settled down a little bit. Notice I'm using a mic these days, especially outside. You get a lot of noise from wind and background, so it helps to be plugged right in, as most of you know who've done this before. Well, you might be asking why I decided to do my video this time in the manner that I have. And there are a couple of reasons. One, because it's really important that we don't forget what's really important. We get so wrapped up in people have a tendency either not to be involved at all in what's going on and having their heads in the sand or up in the clouds, or they're so entrenched in what's happening and so worried that they spend all of their time doing it. And I know people out there who do that, who even watch this channel. And you need to find a good medium. You need to find a middle ground, because what really is important is why all of us are out here exposing the corruption and the crimes and the murders and the thefts, etc., because it does affect our loved ones, ourselves, our loved ones, our friends, and humanity, mankind as a whole. But you can't forget what's really important, and it is the good things in life, the people in our lives, the things to see, the things to do, the blessings that we have, even though the elites, the people that are trying to control our lives, seek to destroy us. So you have to go about balancing all of that. And that brings me to the next point, spirituality. I've been posting some things from my oldest son, Jeremy, and I'll let his information speak for itself. But in fact, he has always been a spiritual, from the moment he was born, he was a very spiritual boy. And of course now, as a man, he's very humble. He works hard to support his family, a very large family. And what he has to say, he says from his heart, and it's inspired, and I think it's good guidance for where we are right now, because especially in the United States, so many people here, even Christians, whatever denomination, whatever faith you espouse, we go to church on our holy days, and then during the week we forget how we're supposed to treat our fellow man. And Jeremy isn't like that. He never has been. So I've put up some information, some of his videos, and it's because we need that spiritual food right now, even if it doesn't match your particular take on God or whatever. It's what's in the heart that he's trying to convey that's so important. And I'm not a Bible thumper or a Christian thumper, so to speak. As many of you know, I am a Christian, but in the form of what I call a Jamesian Christian, for lack of a better term. But faith doesn't need to be insulted, or when somebody has a different point of view, it doesn't mean that they're an enemy. Everybody arrives at their own time and place. Remember, if God is in charge, then we don't have to be judgmental on other people. We just have to speak the truth and let it be spoken, what we interpret the truth to be, and then God will sort it out with each and every one of us in the long run. So what Jeremy presents is very important, I think. And I'm going to put up another video here in the next couple of days, maybe 2, where he actually speaks on camera. And, it was really kind of strange for me to see him do that, but I'm happy that he is. Yeah, there are some dangers involved. Yeah, people will ridicule and accuse and make fun of and those types of things, but they won't hear the message anyway. And it's a very special message from a very special man. It's not just because he's my son. That helps. But it's also because I see what's in his heart and in his mind. He has God's law written in his heart and in his mind. So you'll be seeing some more of those because, as I've said in the past, it's necessary for us to step out beyond ourselves and to see the beauty of the universe and of God who created it, all of our brothers and sisters, everything about creation, but especially our brothers and sisters. We need to have that spiritual input, not just worrying about what's happening, in this place where we're all being tested. And that's another reason why I bring up Jeremy's videos, because I think he explains that very well. Okay? So you'll see some more of those in the next few days. I'm not going to post them all up at once. I'm kind of putting a little space between them so you have time to digest it and see what it says and ponder and pontificate with others if you want to do that. And also to break up all this bad news that we're constantly talking about. Okay, well, I'll move on now. So let's get back to the situation at hand. I expect very soon that we're going to be seeing some important things. There are a lot of sealed indictments that people have been finding all over the country and in huge numbers, way beyond what you would normally see. No, I don't know what those are. I don't know who's putting them out. A lot of people suspect that Mueller, who is in charge of the Russia collusion investigation, isn't that a oxymoron? Is actually working for Trump behind the scenes. Well, like I've said all along, this is the age of deception and betrayal. And so keep your wits about you. Gather the information, be an information gatherer, but be real careful about assuming anything at this point, because we have a lot of people that are definitely against life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and American Christians and constitutionalists in particular. And that brings us back in circle to what's going on in Las Vegas. What's happened in Las Vegas, what's going on right now, of course, is that we're finding out a lot more about who controls that city and why, and that state, actually. We have a few heroes there. Michelle Fiore is one, who is an assemblywoman for the state, and a few others. But when you get an attack on the American people this large, and by enemies who have infiltrated our government, and I don't mean foreign enemies, I mean people who hate the constitutional republic, what it stands for, and want to control everything and steal from you. And unfortunately, during the Obama years, not that it didn't exist before, because it did, but during the Obama years, it became a criminal enterprise far worse than anything it has been in the past. So they tried to seize land. I understand today, I saw it, I knew they were working on it, but the state of Texas finally stopped the Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Bureau of Land Management, from stealing the land around the Red River. They actually stopped that. And that's just an example of what's been happening everywhere. Primarily in the West, but it's been happening everywhere, especially to agricultural people, farmers, ranchers, that kind, that are really supplying us food. They want to shut that down for a lot of reasons, not just because of the minerals on the land that they want, the uranium from Uranium One, for instance, or the minerals around Bundy Ranch, the solar farms to sell to China, so that the people that put themselves in between the government sale and the buyers, they get a kickback, like the Clinton Foundation, like I was talking about before. And of course, the EPA and the environmental laws have gone way overboard. They're actually used by corporations, not. I mean, I'm not saying that all environmental organizations are like this, but many of them are used this way, whether they know it or not, by corporations to basically take land away from people and to get control of it. And then, like they've done or will do if this keeps on in the Bundy Ranch situation, it's not about the desert tortoise. That was just an excuse. And shame on the judge and by the way, the judge was a retired judge, which is another problem. But I'll leave that information on there for you all. You can look it up from Sherry DeValley. She's a good reporter to look up. Brand Thornton, who's been there the entire time and has been doing his best to explain what's going on. I saw that he did an interview with Jason Goodman the other day from Crowdsource the Truth. And I kind of wish it had stayed more on what brought the whole demonstration about and what the federal government, through the BLM and the FBI, were doing to those people. They were setting it up for another Waco, absolutely. I wouldn't have gone there and watched what was going on and been a witness to it if I didn't realize that was the case, and it was. We have very, very evil people in the government, and they need to be held accountable for violating their oaths to the Constitution. They're there to protect us. That's what they're supposed to be, not to take away from us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yeah, we might need certain regulations, but it's gotten way out of hand to where it's now being used as an excuse, of course, and that's the situation with the Bundy Ranch. The prosecution, there's a lot of prosecutorial misconduct during this whole thing. They've withheld information from the defense. They've charged these men and women with crimes, basically using parallel construction, creating a circumstance where they could say there was a crime when there was not. So they weren't investigating a crime. They were trying to shut down the First Amendment rights and the Second Amendment rights of the American people, and that's really what this is about. Do I think they're going to succeed? I don't know. They didn't in Oregon completely. Some people pled there during the Malheur refuge situation, which again, I wasn't up for occupying that structure, despite all the arguments by those who did it. Although some good information was found out. For instance, the way the BLM and the local government and the FBI and the Department of Justice had manipulated these people so they could steal their property, and again turn it over to the uranium situation, to Russia and all of that. And there's more to it than that. Again, Agenda 21, Agenda 30, shutting down our food supply, that all has a part of it too. So we had that situation, and in Vegas, I don't know how that's going to turn out. We did have a couple of the guys who went down there to help protest and help defend the demonstrators at the wash, which, by the way, as I said in Sheriff Gillespie Seeks Slaughter, I don't remember the exact name of the video, but it was about the fact that we recognized, not everybody, but as I looked at the tactical situation on the 12th, I think it was, of April, back in 2014, when the sheriff had told everybody that the BLM was leaving and was going to release the cattle. And then apparently there were some behind-the-scenes things because the sheriff had brought MRAPs. The BLM had been preparing since the evening before in tactical equipment and in tactical positions, including an observation post and sniper post on Mormon Mesa. You've heard me talk about all this before. In other words, this wasn't just an entrapment. This was a military-style ambush, leading the people to believe one thing with no criminal intent, and then having all of this happen since then. If it hadn't been for Assistant Sheriff Roberts there, probably would have turned out a lot different than they would. And they wanted a 9/11 style event and blame Americans trying to defend their rights with the government, especially the BLM, the FBI, and the DOJ, pushing a situation. And I, like I've told you before, I've worked with the FBI. I've dealt with them a lot. I know how they work, and this was definitely the same thing. I won't give you a whole lot of details, but like I said, I was there mostly to make sure that the ranch itself, the people there in the home, the kids and all that weren't attacked, and to report on what's going on, to be an eyewitness. So I didn't see everything that happened there, obviously, but it was important that we document what was going on. So, okay, well, that's probably enough for that right now. There was another point I wanted to make, but I don't know how the microphone's sounding, but there's a lot of people here talking. It kind of got me off track. So, again, how does the Bundy thing and all that the government's doing around the country to go after Christians, conservatives, gun owners, vets, those types of things, and that's been slowed down a little bit by Trump, but there are a lot of these people in these organizations, these government agencies that are still leftovers that are trying to do this, even going after Trump himself, of course, as most of you know. So this thing in Vegas, we really believe that our surveillance state is really protecting the people, well, if there was ever an incident where, well, of course 9/11 too, but especially since 9/11, if there was ever an incident where the surveillance state should have been able to catch it, it was this thing in Vegas. So, like I've said, there were people in the government who allowed this to happen. Okay, I'm not saying the whole government's bad, but there are a lot of people in positions of control that allowed this to happen. And it served several purposes. Like I said earlier, it was a high-value target they were after, amongst other things. And I still think that there were several high-value targets, but certainly the one Saudi prince was definitely one of them. I'm very suspicious of everything that comes out of the LVMPD, and of course I don't trust the FBI at all. They're not trustworthy. They're a criminal enterprise. They're a protection racket that's protecting criminal elites using blackmail and pedophilia to make sure that they don't squeal, and then controlling them. That's what the FBI has become. So the bottom line in Vegas is it had basically 2 or 3 missions by these people. One, of course, was to cause a 9/11 level event, which it did, killing innocent Americans. Number 2, to try to assassinate certain political leaders and people in the know. I don't know where Patriot is today, but as I said, he's not the guy laying on the floor in the hotel room. Definitely not. And then, of course, to say that we need more security when the security we have couldn't even prevent this. The surveillance we had, which should have been obvious through the NSA, didn't stop this event. So it's false. It's a lie. It's nothing more than to infringe on the God-given, constitutionally protected rights of the American people. I could get into more detail. We could talk about the helicopters we've discovered. We could talk about what happened at the Tropicana and the Hooters. But I'd be repeating a lot of information there that really is available today. Look at IntelliHub. That's a good one with Shepard Ambulance, as I said before. You can look at Scott Anthony on Twitter and on YouTube. You can look, of course, InfoWars has a lot of information, but they were reticent to bring a lot of this out at first, saying that, they were told not to talk about it and all that. Well, Zach, when he called in, he pretty well, if you know who the caller Zach is, who was picked up by the FBI later for talking about this stuff, he really nailed it. And we were on that track anyway, as most of you know who have been following my channel. We were on that track anyway. Jake Morphonios with End Times Reporting, as I've said, Tracy Beans. I could list a whole lot of people here who've really worked hard on this, and some that I can't mention. Abel Danger, I can mention, okay. I think that one's a good one. Okay, so this has been a long video, and it hasn't had a lot of particulars. As most of you know, we're waiting for some significant things to occur here in the next little while. And the war is going to continue in the government. When this thing finally gets kicked off, where they start picking people up, you're going to see a lot more happen. Matter of fact, they're predicting that some of that will happen today, both here and abroad. So as I've said, stay alert, stay in safe places, stay out of the way. If you see something going down, protect yourselves and your families, and have those provisions, as I've said, because if things do happen, not that they will for sure, but if they do, it could interrupt your ability to obtain goods and services. Okay? All right, everybody. I'll go ahead and sign out here now. This has been a long one. What is it, an hour now total? Maybe more. And I know some of you don't like long videos, but sometimes we just have to do it. I wish I was like Dr. Pachunik and was succinct His videos are what, 6, 8, 10 minutes long at the most, and he covers a lot of material. He's an expert. He really is. Me, I'm a little more verbose, as most of you know. All right. I'll put this up. It should be up on the 11th, which is today. I'm not sure when. I've got to edit all this. And then we'll see you next time. Thanks for checking in.